Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video, as you can already tell by the title and thumbnail and everything else, is going to be a review for Marvel Studios' latest entry, which is that of the Thunderbolts Asterix. First and foremost, I got a chance to see the movie this last week. I wanted to at least sort of let my thoughts marinate on the movie, really ponder over what I liked about the movie, maybe certain aspects that I thought were lacking, this, that, and the other, and is the sentiment or statement of Marvel Studios is back and Marvel's return, all those statements, are they true? Stick around to this video. First and foremost, you're probably wondering, what is Thunderbolts about? I'll give you at least a quick synopsis. Ensnared in a death trap, an unconventional team of anti-heroes, Yelena, Belova, Bucky Barnes, Red Guardian, Ghost, Taskmaster, and John Walker embarks on a dangerous mission that forces them to confront the darkest corners of their past. I always want to say this is a non-spoiler review. I know there's spoilers out already, and even Marvel themselves have spoiled, quite literally, I dare say, their biggest marketing tool for this movie, which is that of the Asterix. You're probably already, if you've seen this or if you've not, you probably maybe have some inkling or some notion of it, or you do know what it is because of the fact Marvel has just gone full swing with that and just spoiled it outright, not even less than a week since it's premiered. And I don't know why they did that, but I promise you there'll be no spoilers. That'll be saved for the spoiler discussion, which I will do after this non-spoiler review of the movie. First and foremost, as someone who's kept up with the announcement of this project from the first bit of concept art we got of this roster up until this very point where the film has now premiered, I was someone who was very skeptical when it came to this particular Marvel project, which is that of the Thunderbolts, because of the fact these are not the expected assortment of characters comic book fans would have expected, and even MCU fans, general or otherwise, would have expected, because of the fact it comprises of all these other characters besides like maybe Bucky Barnes, who out of the group has the most recognition, and considering the fact that Sebastian Stan's portrayal of Bucky Barnes throughout the whole MCU tenor, he's sort of an MCU veteran amongst more of the new blood in this group, maybe minus Ghost, of course, because she appeared in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But minus that, I really wasn't vibing with this assortment of anti-heroes because of the fact that the comic book reasoning behind the formation of the Thunderbolts, sometimes it's changed, but it is more or less, it's a government sanctioned team. But there are other instances where it is a group of villains masquerading as heroes, with the first debut of the Thunderbolts, which was led by Baron Zemo, who led a group of villains where they all masqueraded as heroes to gain the public's favor. Seeing the MCU do this take, where at the time when Thunderbolts was announced, my perception, or at least my interpretation of that, was that it was going to be a sort of spin on the Avengers team, where we would be getting polar opposite versions of these Marvel villains who would mimic our Marvel heroes. I was thinking maybe Baron Zemo would be there, maybe an Abomination or something like that, but seeing as how Marvel Studios have dealt with those characters, and it's safe to say that they wouldn't really fit, and considering where they bookended those characters for the time being. So when Marvel decided to use this group of characters, I was very apprehensive, because some of these characters have been sort of hit or miss for me, and some of those had good potential. That potential of being really good characters was kind of squandered in their previous appearances in prior Marvel projects, a la the character of John Walker, who comes from the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, who I do like, but I didn't like the way they handled that character's arc, because in that show, in the finale, it felt like it came out of nowhere. And even with characters like Taskmaster, MCU fans didn't like, even the comic book fans did not like that particular interpretation of the character. And even a character like Ghost, who I personally didn't really care all that much about, even in Ant-Man 2, especially with the fact you have characters like Red Guardian, Bucky Barnes, and John Walker, who three of which are pretty much all super soldiers, and Yelena Belova being essentially a Black Widow type, and Taskmaster, who does Taskmaster shit, and then Ghost, who out of all of them has powers. Of course, skepticism grows and everything, but then I remembered last year when the trailer for it had been leaked, because someone decided to film that trailer during a Comic-Con, but a lot of people, and even in the lead up to the movie's release, from the teaser trailer up until the official trailer and everything like that, it was really interesting to see that this was, out of all the MCU movies, where the word of mouth can be split, and the reception toward these projects prior to and after the release of, where it can be really split. A lot of people on the internet were really looking forward to the Thunderbolts, and even I myself was at first was kind of like weirded out by this because of all the MCU movies. Why is it that Thunderbolts is the one that everybody is sort of unanimously excited for? And you know, seeing the trailers, the first teaser trailer up until the second trailer, I've not seen the final trailer and anything additional after that. It really did pique my interest, and I was really interested to see how this movie was really going to tackle a lot of these characters who were somewhat mishandled. Others weren't really given proper time to shine. But to really see a movie catapult and bring forward these characters and really try and do something with them was quite the task, to say the least. And did they achieve this task? Now you find out. So I think first and foremost, I think something that really shocked me in this movie was that I think everybody really is good in this movie. Like, they all really stand out. One particular thing you probably hear in a lot of the reviews for this film is that Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, is really, really good. She is a really great actress, and especially in this movie, I really dug her a lot in comparison to Black Widow. And personally, that's really my introduction to Florence Pugh, which was via Black Widow and a lot of the other Black Widow characters like Red Guardian, stuff like that. I mean, like David Harbour I'd seen in other stuff, but Florence Pugh, my introduction to her was in Black Widow specifically. So seeing her in this, Yelena is the character you really spend most of your time with. She is kind of your POV character, your protagonist almost, in a sense, who you do follow throughout the course of this film. You are in her lens, you are following her for the most of the time. There are other characters that inhabit the space who she surrounds herself with, and even just the rest of the group, but it's always still feels like, even with a veteran character like Bucky Barnes, they never pivot away from Florence Pugh, who's, I dare say, the main star, the central star in this movie, and she kills it because this movie is dealing with a lot. And I think this movie, what I think makes it stand on its own and makes it kind of a very unique entry in this sort of phase of Marvel, it's that it's a movie that is tackling themes of mental health, depression, loneliness, exploring a lot of these very dark and mature themes. I know for some people they might be turned off by that because we are so accustomed to the punching, the shooting, the action, the spectacle of a lot of these superhero movies, when in the end of the day we lose sight and we lose sense of what makes these superheroes beloved, which is the human aspect behind a lot of these characters. There's a man and a woman behind that person. There is a normal everyday being who goes through a lot of the things we do. And in this movie, a lot of these characters, they're all going through some sort of mental health problem. Some characters are depressed, some characters are longing purpose. Within these themes and this story, it is a really unique way to portray the superhero genre. And I think in a day and age where the superhero genre can get kind of stale, can get quite repetitive, I think this movie really does take a bold swing in tackling these issues. It's reflected in almost, if not all of our characters, but particularly in Yelena. She gives a monologue early in the movie, and it's really great because you really get the sense of where the characters are at currently in the story, and to see them grow and evolve, especially when a lot more characters come into the fray and they're all kind of having to reluctantly team up with one another. But it's in that reluctant union between all of these characters where they start to help each other evolve and grow in their own way. And sure, there is bickering, there is fighting amongst all of them, because how can you not have a superhero team up movie where all the characters aren't punching first and asking each other questions later? But it is really great. To circulate it back to the characters, Yelena Belova is really a standout, especially Florence Pugh. She really gives a really great performance, because when we do focus on the other chess pieces and all these other characters and things like that, it always circles back around to Yelena Belova kind of being the heart of the movie and the center of it all. And I think with the fact that Florence Pugh really carries that, it's something I have to really give a big salute to, because it's really not easy, even in an ensemble movie, to be the main focus throughout most of it. It's truly an impressive feat, and she was truly amazing. Sebastian as Bucky Barnes, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that he's always good regardless, and even this far into the movie, I really like his seclusion, but I really like Bucky scenes, especially where he's in the desert riding the motorbike and everything. That's cool. And seeing just Bucky being a part of this group where he's the only veteran in the MCU who's been there for the longest, so seeing him amongst all these newer faces in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is really interesting, and I really like that. And Sebastian Stan always does well. I mean, he's really great with this Winter Soldier role, and seeing him evolve and seeing him, at least from where we last saw the character, if you've watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and seeing where he is now in this movie, it doesn't feel like they're disrespecting that character's evolution. Considering his role in the movie, I mean, I'm not sure if it's like a bit of a a spoiler or not. They've already kind of spoiled it in certain interviews and stuff, but in this movie, Bucky's a congressman, so he's sort of like in the political circle of things. And I really like how they really present that, where he's a guy who's trying to fit in and he's trying to be a part of this system. Even he sort of feels like he doesn't fit in this place as well, seeing how that push and pull between this sort of new position that he's in, but also kind of going back to those old sort of tendencies of that kind of Winter Soldier action, or just going back into that role of being active and being passive. Most of this cast is really great too. Red Guardian, it was a character I sort of had my gripes with Black Widow, because I read up on the character of Red Guardian. His whole MO is the fact that he is a disillusioned Captain America for the Russian government, and they cast him aside, and even Black Widow tackles that a bit. But when it comes to the character in Black Widow, it felt like he was, and understandably so, he was a lot more of the comedy relief in that movie, but I really didn't like a lot of his jokes in the movie, and I honestly just did not like his character at all. And especially if I saw the character anywhere else, especially the latest season of What If, when he appears in the first episode, I just got really tired of him, because his whole shtick is just being loud and Russian and all these things, and it kind of gets annoying to a certain point. Red Guardian in this movie, David Harbour, he's able to really balance being that comedic but also serious and almost vulnerable kind of father, because he is technically Yelena's father, kind of. If you watch Black Widow, you know they were kind of posing as a family, but even then they also felt that family kind of bond even with each other. And seeing Red Guardian here, early on I was really worried that they were going to just do the whole thing of him being loud, Russian, and just comedic throughout the whole movie, but he does have a scene that he shares with Florence Pugh where he assumes that role of being this caring, loving father to Yelena at her vulnerable moment, and almost pushing her up and prompting her up. It doesn't feel sappy, it doesn't feel like they're doing that just for the sake of it to pull your emotional strings. It really does feel earned, it feels heartfelt. When I had my feelings and my apprehensions of the fact that Red Guardian was just going to be this comedic guy throughout, they pulled this out of the rug and they really give him his moment to really shine as a character, and I really liked it. I was genuinely really surprised at how much I like a lot of these characters. Moving on from that, we have Ghost. I don't know if there are any Ghost fans from Ant-Man and the Wasp. I know a YouTuber, The Whole Shebang, he loves Ghost, and I'm a big fan of The Whole Shebang. He's a big fan of Ghost. As someone who was just really like Ghost, I really couldn't care less for the character. I really like her inclusion. I really wish we got to see a lot more insight into the character. In contrast to her in Ant-Man and the Wasp, I liked her a lot more in this movie, because she does something that I was genuinely shocked by, and I was like, wow, okay, you kind of won me over. But yeah, I really like her inclusion, and I really felt that at least this time around I enjoyed her. I did wish she was given a lot more to do. Nevertheless, I'm just glad that this character had more to do in this movie than in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Taskmaster was honestly a surprise. The character I was really looking forward to seeing in this movie was John Walker's US agent, played by Wyatt Russell, son to Kurt Russell, who's already in the MCU. So both Russells are in the MCU now, so that's kind of insane to think. But John Walker, US agent, was one I really loved the role of in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because he is not the Captain America. He isn't meant to be that, and even when his downfall does occur, his downfall is very purposeful. It is weird that the actor got death threats over becoming the sort of new Captain America, but then again, that was ages ago. And I really love the fact, if you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, what those characters' actions are. Almost if not every character in this movie always goes for the low blow and always acknowledges how his time as Captain America was practically short-lived, by just saying, yeah dude, you were just like Captain America for a day and then you screwed that all up. And it's just so funny. There's even a character that actually calls John Walker an a-hole, and the way they said it was just so funny too, because of that particular character, and it was just so hilarious. John Walker is kind of a douche, and even in this movie he is sort of a douche. He is kind of an a-hole, and I like how they kind of play to that. And even in this movie, they don't hold back. They just let him be this sort of douchey, this very egotistic kind of Captain America who's high over his head and always needs to be dropped down by a peg or two by these other characters because of how he's so high on his mighty horse. So I really like that, and I really just like that this movie, it almost sort of, I dare say, redeems that very half-assed kind of out of nowhere redemption that occurred in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, but this time they're just really letting the repercussions that those characters' actions have in his prior appearance really come forward, at least actually be acknowledged and be something of a talking point in this movie. And we even get a little bit more insight into this character as well, because this is taking place after Falcon and Winter Soldier, and this movie takes place after Captain America Brave New World as well, and seeing the way this character is at as well and giving us insight into what he's been up to and everything like that is really great. Another surprising character was Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character of Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. If we've all kept up, at least for us MCU fans, if we've kept up with this character, you know she was popping up almost, if not in every Marvel project or post-credit scene, from Falcon and Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And in those projects, they've more or less teased this character and everything, but the character hasn't been given much to do. And I was really curious to see, okay, how would they really expand on this particular character? Because so far, a lot of her character is just someone in the government in some sort of position, and she's just going around saying stuff, doing things, and I didn't really feel for her character. What I really liked about her character in this movie is that through and through, she is just heartless and she's just manipulative, and they just play to that. Other than that, really great. I actually was like, wow, they actually gave a character like Valentina somewhat more to do in this movie, whereas in her MCU appearances where they were lacking, this time she's able to shine a lot more in this one. Geraldine Vishwanathan, who in this movie plays the assistant to Val, she's alright, but I felt like that character she played was very lacking because she just plays assistant to Val. She really doesn't do much in comparison to all the other characters. She's given very little to do. But a surprising standout in this movie that I won't spoil, because I think this character, I mean, if you know who the character is, for those who have yet seen the movie and don't know what to expect out of this character, simply, if you've seen the trailers, you know there's a particular character, even in this group of anti-heroes, there's just one sort of outsider who's sort of entangled in all of this, and his name is just Bob, and how he's a part of this whole story, and as the narrative unfolds, you'll get it. Bob's inclusion, played by Louis Pullman, he was an absolute standout, and this is no surprise that Louis Pullman is good at playing a Bob character, because I remember Louis Pullman from Top Gun Maverick, where he also plays a character called Bob, and in that, he looks very innocent. He has that innocent face, and he has those glasses and everything, so seeing him in this movie play another Bob, I really liked his character a lot, and I liked how he fit with the themes of this movie and how he was able to play off the characters. And I think a lot of his scenes are really well done, and I like what they explore with the character, and I think Louis Pullman does a really great job. And I think Louis Pullman has this kind of mellow voice when he talks, and in a lot of his interviews he kind of sounds like this very chill, kind of laid back kind of guy. So I just like every scene with him, because the way he talks and he says certain lines in that very mellow kind of surfer bro-esque kind of way. So I just really liked it a lot. I love the characters, the action especially. I mean, I think it's great. A lot of the motif, there's like a specific motif which I will get into in the spoiler video, but they use a lot of this motif throughout the movie that I really like, and I like how it does play into the movie and where it all leads. Something that I really think was such a standout is just the way they really tackled the psychological aspect of a lot of these heroes, and really delving into the themes of these mental health issues, and how that is what is the connective tissue between a lot of these characters, and how it creates this weird formation between all of them is really great. The team dynamics and a lot of the dynamics with these characters and with these actors, they really make it believable, and I just really like that a lot. So with that out the way, I'm gonna give my rating for Thunderbolts, and drum roll please. I give Thunderbolts around a 7 or 8 out of 10. I really liked Thunderbolts a lot. I really dig it. It was characters first and everything else second. I'm not on the bandwagon of the MCU's back, the MCU's returned its peak form. No. I do think this movie is a step in the right direction, and should at least be something Marvel takes note of, and at least takes the lessons of what made this movie good and applies it throughout a lot of their projects. For me personally, the movie that I feel like is gonna give me that injection of energy and excitement, Fantastic Four, is really gonna be a determining factor into whether or not the MCU is kind of back, considering how that movie stylistically is different, and how it's taking an already existing mythos and characters of the Fantastic Four and how they're going to spin that in the new and exciting way. So I really think what really determines that whole Marvel's back, MCU's back sort of statements, if you really want to go there, I think Fantastic Four later this year is going to be that determining factor for individuals. I personally feel like that's the movie I'm really kind of excited for and really want to see if that movie can really inject and give me that abundance of joy. Not to say that this movie didn't, but in short, Thunderbolts is a step in the right direction for what the MCU needs to do. That concludes this non-spoiler video. Have you guys seen Thunderbolts? What did you think about it? Give your ratings and thoughts below. I'll hopefully get around to making a spoiler review and spoiler discussion going over the film in a lot more detail. Till then, thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe as it shows your support. Click the bell notification icon to be notified of when videos go live on this channel. Until then, see you all on the next video. Take care. Love you all.